Hey everybody. So haven't done a video for a while. I guess some of you might be seeing my face the first time. So hello there. Um, I'm going to talk about the Book of Boba Fett. So spoiler warning. If you haven't already seen the journal warning that there's going to be spoilers here, then hi. I will be spoiling stuff. It's the weekend after the last episode though, so I figure it's going to be okay to just talk about it. But anyways, long story short, and then I'll have the long story after the short. I more or less enjoyed this show. There were some story choices in it where I had some serious questions about, okay, why are we doing this now? Or that could have been done better. But overall, I enjoyed it. I think they did a good job just showing a bit more Star Wars, showing a part of Star Wars we don't always see, that being the criminal underground. And while I think this is going to be like it seems that Tatooine is going to be a running gag in these shows because they've gone to Tatooine in all of these, in every single live action TV show so far. They've gone to Tatooine, so we've gone there in Mandalorian seasons 1 and 2, Book of Boba Fett. Kenobi obviously is going to be set there. I'm almost certain there's going to be a Tatooine episode for Andor, just because that's the running gag, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see the Ahsoka show also go to Tatooine. It just seems to be something they like doing. Maybe it's kind of bit of an homage to the very beginning, with A New Hope and everything. But regardless of that, Book of Boba Fett, I would say it's a solid effort, a very solid effort, with some questionable execution here and there. But overall, the sets were great. The characters were a lot of fun for me personally. Um, Writing was pretty solid. There were, like I said, there were some choices I questioned where I'm like, okay, why is this here? Why are we doing this? And there was genuinely only one part that I was honestly disappointed by, but that was a kind of a foregone conclusion for anyone that's a fan of the old expanded universe canon instead of the newer Disney canon. I went into this assuming we were going to get that fish to the face, But what can you do? It's just it's Disney's Star Wars. Um, anyways, so I guess starting out, we'll address the one of the more common things I've seen from some of the people who really didn't like the show is this is not Boba Fett. Boba Fett doesn't behave like this. What happened to the hardened killer we all know and love? And I can see the argument. The show has an issue with pacing, especially in the very beginning. We don't know exactly how long Boba Fett was. Oh yeah, sorry. For your viewing pleasure, I must now inform you that spoilers will begin time now. So, yeah, almost 3 minutes in, and now the spoilers start. So if you don't want spoilers, if you haven't seen the show, be gone. So, yes, back to that. Boba Fett escapes the Sarlacc, as we all know by now, I think, and gets picked up eventually by Tuskens. And a lot of people have been saying that this isn't Boba Fett. He's, not the hardened, competent killer we saw once upon a time. He's now, he's weirdly gentle or incompetent, that sort of thing. And this is where I was going to talk about earlier about the show having pacing issues, is that we don't really know how long Boba was with the Tuskens. The way the show is presented, with a series of flashbacks to his time in the Sarlacc and with the Tuskens, etc., it's a bit hard to say exactly when all this happens or for how long. The show makes it seem like it might be a few days, but given the fact that this all happened in 4 years after the Battle of Yavin, and the show is taking place in 9 years after the Battle of Yavin, there's a 5-year gap there. Or I think it's 9 years. If it's not 9 years after the Battle of Yavin, correct me, please. But I think it's 9 years after the Battle of Yavin. But there's a 5-year gap there where we're not really sure what Boba was doing. How much of those 5 years were spent with the Tuskens, or how much of them were spent wandering around the desert doing God knows what. And 5 years living with a native tribe that you respect and begin to adopt the culture of, / wandering around the desert for that time, a lot can change in that time. About anyone. I guarantee you, anyone who spends 5 years living with a native tribe and then wandering around the desert by yourself aimlessly for who knows how long exactly, that changes a person. So I do think that they handled Boba in that regard well. I mean, you can make arguments here and there, but we have to keep in mind that even in the expanded universe, as Boba Fett did mellow out with age. There's a wonderful short story, which it's in one of the Tales books, I believe. I don't remember which one at the moment, but it's one of the Tales books where Boba Fett is hunting down Han Solo, and it's the last time he hunts down Han Solo. It's years and years later. Han has kids, has been married for years. Boba is just kind of, you know, an older guy. He's, by our standards, he'd be a senior citizen. By Star Wars standards, he's like, a young old man, which sounds silly, but humans in Star Wars, confound it. I should have waited. I knew that call was coming, and I should have waited. Did it go? Okay, anyways, humans in Star Wars can live for at least 120 years, and there are some cases of characters who have lived double that for humans. It's not uncommon, it's not common, and it's usually not very appealing. Like the ones who live that long usually are heavily medicated and heavily, what's the word? Heavily cybernized. They have lots of mechanical parts, or they have a machine of some kind that keeps them alive. Humans don't usually live that long, and even the force-sensitive ones, who naturally, because of their force abilities, have a longer prowess or longer lifespan, even they, don't make it past like a century and a half typically. So, anyways, Boba isn't that old in that version. That's the track. Back off the tangent, onto the main point, and he and Han confront one another in this short story, and there's this moment where they're kind of just looking at one another at the end of the story, and they're just like, why are we still doing this? Like, it's been almost 2 decades. Why are we still doing this? Han's looking at him like, I'm married and have kids. And Boba's looking at him going, I'm not even sure why I'm angry at you anymore. Ugh. And they have this goofy little conversation where the two of them are kind of pointing guns at one another like, we're old. We're both past this. Why are we here? And they go their separate ways. And at that point forwards, Boba Fett begins to mellow out a bit. And by the time we pick him up again during the Yuuzhan Vong War and then the New Jedi Order later on, he's very different. He suddenly cares about his family, his people, the Mandalorians. His priorities have completely shifted, and it's quite the change for him. But it is a change that happens, and I think, in my mind at least, they accelerated that character change. They mellowed him out a lot more quickly here in the Book of Boba Fett, which I don't think is intrinsically a bad thing. It's a choice. It's a narrative choice, and again, it's one I'm not really against personally. I think there were some choices with Boba Fett where it's like, okay, you've made him a little too soft here. But overall, I understand why they did it. I understand the choices being made for the reasons of the story. And I don't think it's the worst thing or the end of the world, or they even butchered the character. I can see, it's one thing when you take Luke Skywalker from, Return of the Jedi and then jump forward to Force Awakens and not the Force Unleashed. Frick, the movie is so bad I don't even want to say its name. What is it? The Last Jedi. The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. It's one thing when you do that, and it's like, this is complete character butchery. This, like, we're 30 years into this character's life now, and it's like, what have you done to this character? Holy shit. There's nothing here. It's not the same character. What the fuck have you done? Versus Boba Fett, where it's like, okay, yeah, he was eaten by a Sarlacc. He was left to die in the desert. He was, helped by the Tuscans and then wandered around the desert for God knows how long. That changes someone. Yeah, I can understand that changing someone. And don't worry, we'll get back to Luke later. He's coming up. So I don't have a problem with that. And the show as a whole, I really enjoyed it. I know the next big stickler that a lot of people had was the bike gang. A lot of people felt they were out of place on Tatooine. And yeah, I mean, their aesthetics don't, like, I would feel much better with that bike gang personally if they were on Coruscant or Norshada, somewhere where it's much more tech heavy. To me, what they feel like, what the mod community feels like on Tatooine, is a bunch of people who are just kind of like looking at all the dirt and sand and dust around them and going, "This fucking sucks. We hate this. We're going to be as flashy, techy, and gaudy as possible because we don't want to be here. We want to be on Coruscant. We want to be on Nar Shaddaa. We want to be on these, tech worlds where everything is shiny." And that's how I interpret the mod characters. It's not necessarily the most accurate interpretation. I don't know if that's what the designers had in mind, but personally, I don't have much of a problem with them. I find them charming in their own weird way. And up until I guess it was episode 5. By and large, I enjoyed the show. The characters were great. There were a few choices here and there where I'm like, okay, the plot armor is strong with this one, but by and large, I enjoyed it. I could sit back and just go, yeah, here we go. We're off on a ride. Let's have some fun. And I mean, the sanctuary was wonderful. Seeing all the different non-humans in there and meeting Madame Garza, there was so much to like about the sanctuary alone. Not to mention that the boss of the town is an Arthurian. All the different crime families who are in Mos Espa, being the different races, the Trandoshans, and I am so tired today. I have not been sleeping well, so I cannot remember all the different names. But you know who I'm talking about if you've seen the show, the Trandoshans and the others, and it was absolutely wonderful. It's nice seeing all these different species all together, and it was great. But around episode 5, at least for me, it kind of fell apart. A lot of people are saying that episodes 5 and 6 of the Book of Boba Fett are the best parts. I actually disagree. And don't get me wrong, it was great to see Din Djarin again. It was great to see Grogu and Din Djarin together again and all that. It was really wonderful. I think from a overall narrative perspective, though, that episodes 5 and 6 are the weakest episodes in the entire Book of Boba Fett. They're great Mandalorian episodes. If this was Mandalorian season 3, those episodes would be great. But this isn't Mandalorian season 3. This is the Book of Boba Fett. So those two episodes completely derail the plot for me and kind of just wander off into the bushes, or the stars in this case. Because we're suddenly ripped away from Boba Fett, who is, and it isn't like Boba Fett is just chilling in Jabba's palace. At this point in the story, he's got a rancor that he wants to learn how to ride. He's got the pikes breathing down his neck, making threats and bringing in troops. He's got to recruit his own troops and his own allies. And suddenly, instead of focusing on that, we got an entire montage of Boba Fett teaching the Tuskens how to ride speeders, for fuck's sake, and we don't get a single bit of anything, not even like a 30-second clip of him learning to ride the Rancor. Even though he said specifically, I want to learn how to ride the Rancor, it seemed like a really weird missed opportunity. And then to jump completely and not be on Tatooine at all, to Din Djarin out in who knows where, it just seemed so odd and out of place, genuinely. It's just, I mean, and don't get me wrong, like I said, the Mandalorian episodes of the Book of Boba Fett are great. They're wonderfully shot. It's wonderful to see the familiar characters again, to see some new places in Star Wars. The Ring City, or the Crescent City that Din Djarin is on at the start of Episode 5 is beautiful. The costuming, as throughout most of this show, has been wonderful, and it's no less wonderful there. There's some great potential for world building there, and we get it. We get some world building. It just, I don't understand why that is in the Book of Boba Fett. It completely takes away from the narrative and leaves this. This series is only 7 episodes long, and they spent 2 episodes of it not on Boba Fett but on Din Djarin. And to me, that tells me one of two things: either they had no idea what to do at that point with Boba Fett, so they had to go jump back to their tried and true Mandalorian stuff, or they really wanted to shoehorn Din Djarin into this and just lost the plot for 2 episodes. And I'll get to that in a moment. Because those 2 episodes, you could have done so much with it, especially since later on it's revealed that Cad Bane is involved in all this. We could have brought in Bosk, Dengar, Zuckuss, Forlom, IG-88. There are so many characters from Empire Strikes Back, Boba Fett's old bounty hunting buddies, loosely buddies. I mean, hell, Hondo Ohnaka. You could have gotten, there's so many surly underworld characters that they introduced either back during the original movies, during the prequels, or during the Clone Wars, where it's like, does Boba have no favors he can call in? Or hell, he claims he has a fuck ton of money. Can he not, pay Bosk, Dengar, and company to come help him out? I was so hoping we were going to get I always forget which movie it is. It's the Once Upon a Time in Mexico is the trilogy name, I believe, has Antonio Banderas. I think it's either the first or second movie in the trilogy. We have Antonio Banderas, the mariachi, or El, in a town with two other mariachis who are also like assassin hitmen kind of guys, and they go to town on an army of goons. And I was so hoping that's what we were going to get in this, that we were going to see Bosk, Dengar, and maybe a couple other bounty hunters from the Clone Wars or prequels or something drawn in to this mess that Boba finds himself in, and they're all standing there fighting the Pikes. Because we already have sorry, Black Chrysanthemum. I was going to call him Black Chewbacca because I couldn't remember his name, but honestly, I like the character too much to disrespect him that way. Black Chrysanthemum. We already have him there. We have Fennec Shan there. We later on have Cad Bane opposing them. There were so many ways that they could have just brought in other characters during episodes 5 and 6 instead of focusing on Din Djarin. And episode 6 especially is just stupid in my opinion. It shouldn't be in this show. It really shouldn't be. And this is the episode that actually kind of pisses me off because just it's disappointing. And again, I admit this is purely my opinion on this, and it's because we see Luke and Ahsoka in episode 6, and it's unfortunately the weaker version of Luke, the inferior version of Luke, that for some reason, even though the entire core of Luke's character in the original trilogy is no, Master Yoda, fuck your traditions, fuck what you say, I'm gonna go save my friends. Here he is telling Grogu he has to choose between his friends and being a Jedi. I'm sorry, Luke. Who hit you on the head? The fuck? And then to make matters worse, we have Ahsoka Tano, who has repeatedly said over the years, I'm not a Jedi, I'm not a Jedi, I'm not a Jedi, fuck the Jedi Order, they're wrong, da 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 da. Suddenly she is here, being the wise, serene master, and telling Luke that he must follow the Jedi ways. And I get it, Ahsoka is I guess what, 30 years older here than we've last seen her. Actually, no, we last saw her in Rebels, but even then, she doesn't feel like Ahsoka from the Clone Wars or even from Rebels. She felt bolder and more aggressive, even in Rebels. And here suddenly, and also in The Mandalorian Season 2, which, she feels so different and not like herself. It's almost like it's a different character, which is weird. You'd think, considering that Filoni has such a close hand in these shows right now, that he'd be very protective of how Ahsoka is portrayed. And yet, we get this really weird, serene Jedi Master who's telling Luke that the old ways are, best to be followed. And I'm like, okay, I knew Luke was going to be shit, because we have the sequels to show that he is shit. But Ahsoka too? I mean, don't get me wrong, Rosario Dawson rocks Ahsoka. She looks great. The costuming is very well done. She, when she's actually being Ahsoka, like in Mandalorian Season 2, she actually does really well. This didn't feel like Ahsoka. This felt more like Shaak Ti or something. And Shaak Ti's dead at this point, I'm pretty sure. So I'm not sure who that was supposed to be. It did not feel like Ahsoka. And the entire thing of Luke making Grogu choose between his friends and his path as a Jedi doesn't make sense in my mind. It's stupid. And to add insult to injury, episode 6 of the Book of Boba Fett should be somewhere in the middle or the first third maybe of Mandalorian Season 3. I don't know what that episode is doing in the Book of Boba Fett, but it's here. And once again, we're losing valuable time in a 7-episode series focusing on a different character on a different arc for a different show. I don't know who thought that was a good idea, but they did. And we get to episode 7, the finale. And, at this point, the war has begun. Madame Garza's sanctuary has gone up in flames. She's gone out with a bang. Fun thing, by the way, I am hoping that Max Rebo is actually alive, because I want Max Rebo to become the next unsinkable Sam. Who was a cat in World War II that kept being on British warships. I think actually originally it was a German. I think it was originally on a German warship, and then it was on British warships. So it was on 3 or 4 warships, and the ships it was on kept getting sunk. I swear that cat's bad luck. And the cat kept surviving, and hence Unsinkable Sam. And there's some question how true that story is, but it's the idea behind it that I laugh about. Because Max Rebo survived the Jabba the Hutt's sail barge, and now Madame Garza, where he's currently been working, her sanctuary gets blown up. And I want Max to survive, just so we have an unsinkable Sam scenario where it's just like, oh yes, Max Rebo, the unexplodable. I think that'd be wonderful. I don't know if they're going to do that or not. This might actually be where Max dies finally, but it's a wonderful opportunity to make a kind of a joke there and just turn Max into kind of a silly, side character who just keeps getting blown up and keeps not dying. But anyways, the final episode, we've seen Din Djarin come back to Tatooine. He's recruited the Marshal Cobb Vance from what's now known as Freetown. Cad Bane makes his appearance, shoots the marshal, is confronting with Boba, and etc. etc. It all go, everyone. If you've seen the series, it gets hectic fast. There's a big fight. I question why they put Chrysanthemum in the Trandoshan district, because it's like he just a couple episodes ago he just ripped a bunch of Trandoshan's arms off and killed like all of them. Why are you putting him here with the Trandoshans? Like, is it an intimidation thing, or is it just to piss them off? Like, I'm assuming it was the thought process was intimidation, but to me at least, it seems like Boba, especially since Boba has made a peace deal with the three families, although that doesn't hold up very long, but still the principle is the same, that he's made a peace deal with these three families, um, and it just it seems like a poor move, like an intentionally provocative mood. I feel like given his other enforcers that he had at that point, I feel like he could have put someone else there. But there's the big fight. We get to see the Scorpionek walkers, which is really cool. They were rather awesome, and all the droideka jokes are hilarious. And Din is there with him, of course. We see Din be very noble and go like, because I think at one point Boba Fett's like, "You don't have to be here, dude. Like, I asked you for a favor. You're not getting paid. You don't have to die here." And Din's literally like, "Fucker, I gave you my word that I'd help you. You helped me save the kid. I'm helping you hold your city. Let's go do this shit." And they go out and do this shit, as only Mandalorians can. And it's great fucking fun. Boba at one point fucks off, and we see him bring in the Rancor, which at some point he learned to ride again. I feel like we should have gotten a few scenes showing him riding that thing. Unfortunately, the Gamorreans die, which is tragic, because the Gamorreans, I don't know, like, I don't know how the two of the honestly the most innocuous characters. They're not important at all. They're just Gamorrean guards. For some reason, those two twits, I liked them a lot. They had character. They seemed charming. They were very loyal, and I feel like they got kind of fucked. I feel like they should have been allowed to kill, because they didn't. I don't think they killed any of their opponents. They just get pushed off a cliff, and I feel like they should have been allowed to have like a better death there. And bringing it back to the Tuskens for a moment, killing them off in episode 2 or 3, whichever it was, I feel like was a big misstep. I understand why it was done to get Boba to move on, but I really do feel that they fucked. And also it was to set up the ending, because the ending, Cad Bane taunts Boba about the death of the Tuskens, etc. But I feel like that was a really missed opportunity, because you have a situation where Boba Fett needs foot soldiers to fight this war with the Pikes, and he was at the start of the show. He's out in the desert with this warrior tribe of Tuskens. How cool! How much more of a compelling narrative would it be for the Tusken chief and I assume his wife. It's never really clarified, but I assume it's his wife, the warrior, the Tusken warrioress who helps train Boba. How cool would it be to have them come and repay Boba for him helping them retake their desert by helping him hold Mos Espa against the Pikes? And if you wanted to kill them, that's where you should have done it. They should have died fighting the Scorpionex or Cad Bane or anything really. Just have them there, have them fight alongside Boba that last time, and just get to be badasses. I have a huge soft spot for Tuskens, and the Mandalorian and Boba Fett have been doing wonderful work with them. I hope we see more Tuskens in the future, because they're one of my favorite species in Star Wars. I just feel like the ones we saw here, who are arguably the strongest sense of Tusken we've ever gotten in Star Wars, were so fucked by the story. Like, they could have been handled so much better. And while I think ultimately the Book of Boba Fett is great showing of what can now be done with Star Wars in terms of special effects, in terms of set design, in terms of costuming. I do think it is kind of a weak entry, especially compared to The Mandalorian. Um, it just the narrative kind of wanders all over the place, and there are several choices where I'm like, this could have been done better. This, you could have given this more oomph, more impact, and just done a better job with it. Is it a bad show? No. If you haven't seen it yet and you're a Star Wars fan and you're here getting spoiled for some reason because silly you, go watch it. It's fun. You're probably going to have some parts where you're like, huh? Or why? But overall, I really enjoyed it. It's very compelling. And if I was forced to choose a Disney Star Wars to watch, especially if I had to choose between the sequels and Book of Boba Fett, I'm choosing Book of Boba Fett. you know, all of its flaws and pimples intact. I'm choosing Book of Boba Fett. It's a great show in just world exploration, costuming. You meet some wonderful characters, and you know, pacing and narrative issues aside, it's a lot of fun. So, well done to Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. You've made another good show. I would say, take notes and don't make the same mistakes going forwards. Again, there's nothing we can do to save Luke, unfortunately. A lot of people I know were hoping that we were going to get a redemption for Luke, that Luke wouldn't just be the sad panda that he has been ever since Disney took over, but this show has kind of confirmed that we are getting the shitty version of Luke. Just shut up, you're not getting the cool Luke anymore, you're going to get the shitty version. There was a lot of hope, especially in the Mandalorian, at the end of Mandalorian Season 2, that Luke was going to be a character that we could actually appreciate instead of just the sad panda he's been ever since the sequels happened. And this show torpedoed that hope completely. But beyond that, we're good. Solid. I do think that the 2 episodes of The Mandalorian that snuck into this season really fucked with the narrative and detracted from a lot of things they could have done with those 2 episodes, but I'm not the one being paid millions to do this, so maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Who knows? Ultimately, it is what it is. I hope everyone who sees it enjoys some part of it, because there are a lot of epic moments here to enjoy. And there's not much else to say, really. Good effort. Execution is questionable. But ultimately, it's something that I think the majority of Star Wars fans can enjoy and should take the opportunity to enjoy, because, we got the sequels, and that was a nightmare. And now we have The Mandalorian and Boba Fett, and it's like, okay, you're doing better, Disney. Please, please, for the love of God, keep doing better. We don't want to return to the dark times. But it does, it reinforces the hope that The Mandalorian gave me. And, that's been a lot of the message behind Disney's Star Wars is hope. And whereas the sequels made me lose almost all hope in the franchise, The Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett have given me a lot of hope for the future. I do think there's a lot to look forward to. And I hope we get to keep seeing more of that hope and future without having to worry about it being such subpar quality, because there are a lot of people who feel that way, who feel that, like, they have to, kind of tiptoe up to any new Star Wars, show or movie and pray that it isn't a trash pile. And I think, in my personal opinion, I think we're beyond that period at this point, unless they do a hard right or left turn for some reason. I would say we're into the territory of, hey, we can start expecting to enjoy this instead of wondering if we're going to hate it, which is a good thing, I would say. Anyways, I'm going to stop repeating myself, stop prattling. I hope everyone has a lovely evening. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody. Even if you're alone, celebrate yourself, damn you. You're worth it. Take care.